This lesson introduces you to HTML forms and their uses. You will learn how to construct HTML forms using graphical user interface objects such as text area fields, radio buttons and checkboxes, option list menus and multiple option lists, and use a form as an interface to a search engine. Up until now, you've learned how to create HTML documents to present information to the user. HTML also offers a mechanism called a form that allows the user to send information by interactively entering data into an HTML page. The user-entered data is then submitted to the server where it is stored or processed. In this lesson, you will learn how to create a simple form and have the user data sent to an email address that you specify. HTML forms may contain several elements, including text entry fields, radio buttons, checkboxes, list boxes and scrolling lists, submit and reset buttons. These user interface elements allow customized forms to be constructed. You will learn how to incorporate each of these form elements. The data input into a form by the user may be processed in one of two ways. The results of the form may simply be delivered to an appropriate email address or may be sent to a common gateway interface (CGI) script residing on the server. A CGI script can perform any number of tasks with the returned data. The data may be entered into an existing database used to create a customized web page, often as a reply to the user, or may be used to search a database and return a result to the user. Although a CGI script can be a very powerful tool, there are a number of considerations to be examined before selecting this method. First, because this script will run each time a form is completed, it puts an additional processing burden on the server. Second, these CGI scripts are somewhat complex to write and require at least a basic knowledge of programming languages. An in-depth discussion of CGI scripting goes beyond the scope of this class, but additional information may be found on the internet. To simplify the use of form data, the HTML code for the form may be written to have the completed data sent to an email address. This is the method that will be used in this class. One disadvantage to this method is the difficulty that arises for users whose browsers have not been properly configured to send a form to an email address. For those users whose browser is not configured for mail, it is suggested that you include a fax number or postal address to which the results may alternately be printed and sent. When form data is processed, the data will appear as a string, similar to the example below. Although the message may appear somewhat cryptic at first glance, it is quite simple to use a search and replace function to translate the data to a more usable form. The first task for a CGI script is to pass this information. The data may be translated to appear as the sample below. If received via email, there are utilities that will pass these strings for you, which you may then import into a database. The form tag is a closed tag used within the body of an HTML document. It has two attributes associated with it. The action will refer to the URL where the data is to be submitted. This is normally a CGI script, but may be an email address. If using an email address, the method specified must be post. The input tag is an entry field that may be displayed in a variety of ways. The input tag has 5 attributes associated with it, depending on the type specified: type, name, size, max length, value. The most basic element of a form is the text field. Defined by the type attribute of the input tag, the text field permits the unlimited entry of text on a single line. If multiple fields are created, the user may tab through the fields according to the order of fields down the page. It is possible to modify a text field with the size and max length attributes. The size attribute changes the apparent size of the text field, while the max length attribute limits the number of characters that may be entered. Thus, the size of the field can suggest to the user a proper response, while the max length can prevent the user from entering more information than is needed or desired. When creating a form that contains a question with a finite set of answers, you may wish to the user to make only one choice from a list. Radio buttons have become the design convention for indicating to users such a choice. When choosing from a set of radio buttons, the user may only select one. Each input tag within a set of choices will have the same name but a different value attribute, so that only one choice is recorded. Checkboxes are used to offer a list from which users may choose more than one option. Whereas the radio buttons will only allow one choice, checkboxes will report back multiple selections. As with radio buttons, each input tag within a set of checkboxes will have the same name but a different value attribute. Though the input tags are the most common form elements, there are other tags to add functionality to your forms. The select tag is used to create a pop-up menu or a scrollable list. The select tag is different from the input tag because it must be closed. The tag has three attributes associated with it. The option tag is nested inside the select tag to specify each of the available choices. You may add the selected attribute to the option tag so that a particular item is pre-selected automatically. The multiple attribute indicates that more than one item may be selected, usually by holding the Control or Command key as the selections are made. The size attribute defines the size of the field as determined by the number of choices that will be visible. The text area tag is an entry field where the size of the field can be defined in rows by number and columns by number of characters. You can create a scrollable box with the text area tag. The tag must also be closed. The text area tag has three attributes associated with it. You may also create some default text to appear in the field. Text appearing between the opening and closing of the text area tag will appear in the field. The submit and reset buttons are created with an input tag. To complete a form, a submit button is required. Otherwise, the data cannot be processed. The reset button is optional, but is helpful to users who wish to clear the form and start over. Either tag may include a value attribute to specify the label for the button. Most forms submit data to be processed by a CGI script. You identify the script through the URL in the action attribute of the form tag.